Welcome to today's video. I'm Richard Chapo. I'm an attorney in San Diego, and I've been representing online businesses for the last, 20 years or so. In today's video, we're looking at the sexy and titillating subject of selecting a business entity for your online business. And we've included silhouetted images of people who were supposedly sexy, although I'm looking at them now and, maybe not. Work with me. So what are business entities? What are we talking about here? Well, we're talking about the well-known entities, primarily the corporation, the limited liability company, the general partnership, and the sole proprietorship. There are actually many more exotic entities, such as limited liability partnerships, but those are used so rarely for online businesses that we're just going to skip them because there's no reason to discuss something that you're probably never, ever going to use. And frankly, if you were going to use this at some point in the future, you would already basically be retaining an attorney and a CPA to get you through that process because it can be quite technical. So let's start with a situation we see online all the time. Let's say it's your first time online and you've heard you can make money and you've decided to slap up a website, maybe put some articles on it and add some affiliate links. Okay. Well, if you're doing that on your own, you might be surprised to learn that the law designates you by default as a sole proprietorship. If you have a partner who's working on the site with you, then the two of you are designated a general partnership, unless you make some alternative designation. So we see a ton of sole proprietorships and a ton of general partnerships in the online environment just because people don't know better. They don't know that they're being designated these things by default. So what do I think of these things, of these entities, and operating a business under them? Well, my view is basically it'd be better to have died as a child than to use either of these entities for your business. And the problem is with asset protection. So when you think about a traditional C corporation, it creates what's called a shield that protects you, your personal assets, from the debts and liabilities of the business. So let's say that the business creates a product. You sell 1 million of these products, and then it turns out that after 30 days, the products catch on fire and burn down houses. There are all kinds of deaths and everything else, and you're sued, and the business is found liable in a class action lawsuit for $200 million in damages. Well, you're probably not going to have $200 million. But the good news is that the plaintiff is restricted to going after only the assets of the business. They can't come after you personally. So your house, your cars, your investments, those are all safe. Very, very important. And frankly, the power of these entities, this is why these entities really kind of exist. Now, if we go back and we look at the sole proprietorship and the general partnership, you don't get that protection. There's no asset protection associated with those entities, so they're kind of worthless. And to make matters worse, with the general partnership, you're often going to be held jointly and severally liable with your partners for business debts. So what does that mean? Well, let's assume that you and somebody else decide to slap up a website and you're going to offer SEO services. Your partner goes out to happy hour with a potential client to try and schmooze them. They end up having way too many drinks. Client or your partner gets into his car to drive home, runs over, a busload full of nuns, kills a bunch of them, and a lawsuit incurs, and a judgment of $10 million is returned. Well, guess what? All the partners in that business are liable for that debt. So even though you didn't go to, the happy hour meeting, even though you didn't have any drinks, even though you didn't drive that car, because you are a partner in that general partnership, you are liable for that $10 million. Congratulations. So you can see why neither of these entities are favored by attorneys or practically anybody, because they really don't provide any benefit, but they do provide this just nasty liability situation, one that should be avoided at all costs. So what are better entities? The better choices, the more popular choices, are the limited liability company and the S Corp. And these are known as pass-through entities. Now, it's important to make clear they are not passing through liability. They will protect you. So if we go back to our scenario we just discussed, $10 million judgment is rendered against the business. And the party that got that judgment, received that judgment, will only be able to collect against the assets of the business. So your website, your domain name, that kind of stuff. They will not be able to breach that business entity and come after your home, your investments, or any of those kinds of things. So what does the pass-through refer to? It refers to the finances and the taxes associated with the revenues generated from the business. And this is where things get kind of interesting. So these entities will kick out tax returns information returns that you will incorporate into your personal taxes. And that's how you report and pay taxes on the profits or losses or what have you. But recently, in the last few years, we had President Trump appear on the scene, and he forced through new tax law. And he signed it into law, and that tax law contains a 20% deduction for pass-through entities. So if it's your first year of business, your second year of business, whatever it is, and you brought in $100,000 in gross revenues, well, here's the good news. You can get a 20% tax deduction on that $100,000. So you're looking at, $80,000 in reportable revenue instead of $100,000. That is a healthy tax deduction. It applies to any pass-through entity. Technically, it also applies to partnerships and sole proprietorships, but of course, they don't have the asset protection benefits that you're looking for. So you really want to take advantage of pass-through entities. In most cases, the LLC or the S corp. Which entity is the best? Well, you'll read articles online all the time saying, oh, the LLC is best or the S corp is best, and those articles are just wrong. Much of the corporate law surrounding these entities and the tax situations, and particularly the fee situations associated with the entities, are different in every state. They're established at the state level, not federal level. And so you can have some states where it's pretty clear an LLC is the optimal choice, and other states where it's pretty clear the S corp is the better choice. So you're going to want to talk to a CPA and an attorney in your area to make sure that you work through those issues so that you ultimately end up with the best choice in your jurisdiction. In California, where we're at, for instance, LLCs have to pay not only the formation costs, but within 3.5 months of formation, they also have to pay an additional minimum tax of $800 for the quote-unquote privilege of doing business in California. That's a nasty little surprise for somebody who's just starting out, maybe has an affiliate site. So anyways, make sure to check with that with your local CPA and attorney. C Corps, what are they good for? Well, absolutely nothing. Nope, that's not actually true. C Corps get bashed, but they are the entity of choice for a certain important group of people. And those would be people who are third-party investors. We're talking angel investors or venture capital. If you were going to set up your business with the idea of attracting those kinds of investments, well, those people are really only going to invest in a C Corp. And they're going to want that C Corp based in Delaware. Why? Well, Delaware law has some very favorable laws for investors. It allows investors to come in and essentially force out the management of the entity. So let's say that you have a great idea for a social media website. You're going to call it Fartbook, and it's going to look shockingly similar to Facebook. And some investors are convinced this is the next big thing, and they write you a check for $100 million. 3 months later, they call to find out what's going on. And after a small investigation, they realize you're actually sitting on the beach in Jamaica smoking weed all day, and you haven't done jack about launching the site. Well, at that point, they're going to be displeased. And what they're going to do is try to move in and boot you out as the chief executive officer. Have the board vote to go in a different direction, maybe with somebody who actually shows up to work. I know, revolutionary thought. Doing that is much simpler under Delaware law and with C Corps than it is anywhere else. So to protect their investment, that's typically what venture capitalists and angel investors are going to look for. They're not as strict on that as they used to be, but still, if you're planning for that kind of investment, it's almost always best to go in that direction. So having mentioned Delaware, why don't we talk about all the promotions you see online for business formations? Form in Nevada, form in Delaware, form in Wyoming, whatever the latest popular place is. Form in Mars. We'll offer you anonymity, and we'll save you money on taxes and everything else. And to be honest with you, with the exception of the C Corp filing in Delaware because you're going after venture capital, most of the promises that you're seeing online about going to Nevada or wherever, they're just invalid. they're really just false. They're marketing pitches, and that's it. So why? What's the problem? Well, the problem is, quite frankly, that whatever small benefit you might get from being in these places is trumped by what are called foreign registration rules. So nearly, every state, as far as I know, has a statute that says if you are operating within our state, operating a business, then you need to register here as a foreign business entity. And when you register as a foreign business entity, you're going to have to list the real people who are shareholders, and you're going to have to pay all the fees and taxes in that state associated with whatever the entity is, as though it was formed there. So let's assume that I'm in California. It's a high tax state, and I say I need relief. So I go to Nevada and I say, okay, I want to form a business entity here. Well, I'm going to have to pay those fees. Then I'm going to have to pay a fee for a virtual office. And then I'm going to have to pay a fee for a business license. And every year I'm going to have to file, certain reports and what have you. So we're talking about an annoying waste of time and, not insignificant costs. But because I'm actually based in California and I'm actually running the business here and doing, the work here, California is going to assert that I need to register as a foreign entity. So once I do that, once I register my Nevada entity, then I'm going to have to pay all the California fees and taxes that I would have had to pay if I had just registered here originally. So I end up getting, essentially paying double the taxes and double the fees. Well, not so much double the taxes, but definitely double the fees and double the incidental costs. I need to get this virtual office in Nevada and all these things. And what benefit am I really getting out of it? Well, nothing from a financial perspective. What about from an anonymity perspective? Well, sure, kind of. But, once I register in California, that information is going to be public, and the same is going to be true in any other state. So I'm not sure that it's the benefit that most people think it is. And frankly, you'd probably want to talk to an attorney or CPA in your area to make sure that, there's some financial sense to going to one of these places. There usually is not. I'll just be honest with you. So that's the important aspect of business entities when you're selecting one for your online business. Again, business entities, the law surrounding them is really established on a state-by-state basis. So you want to talk to somebody in your state who has an understanding of those laws, and they can probably tell you what the best entity is for you, for your specific business model in that particular state. And usually it'll be either the LLC or the S Corp. But the exact answer will be dependent on your state. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching the video. Feel free to subscribe to our channel. We'll be posting more videos on starting online businesses and other internet law legal issues that pop up. And have yourself a good day.